Hello and welcome to our today's webcast about the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the business opportunities from them. I'm Uwe Schulte, your host for today, and I'm very pleased that you join us for this webcast. Before we get started, let me make a few more logistical announcements and show you how to interact with us in this webcast. So first of all, at any point in time, you can ask questions by typing them into the chat box on the left bottom of your the left corner on the bottom of your screen. We will either weave them into the conversation or we'll deal with them at the end of the presentations. And please feel free to make elaborate use of that opportunity. You can also download that presentation at any point in time. You find it at the bottom of your screen as well. We have today quite busy slides in parts, and if you want to see more details, you can click on the four arrows on the top of your screen, and you can return to a normal screen again at any point in time. We would really appreciate if you could fill in the brief evaluation form at the end of the presentation. That helps us improve our service to you. Also, this video will be available on demand from tomorrow onwards, and you can share this with your colleagues when you would like to do so. For participants who participate in the CPE credits, you have the possibility to participate today. Type your full name and email address in the space provided. And then during the presentation at 3 points in time will be a pop-up, and you just have to click on the OK, and that will then earn you the credits. Of course, this can only be done during the live webcast and not in the recording. So having said all of that, I have now the pleasure of introducing to you our panel, and we're very glad and very proud to have such an expertise assembled here. First of all, I would like to introduce to you Saskia Jung. She's responsible. Welcome, Saskia.
Hello, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Saskia is responsible for sustainability relations at BASF, and she has developed strategies, goals, and tools for sustainability and environmental management since 2007. Also as an independent consultant in Southeast Asia for various industries. She led research projects in Europe and North America on governance structures and has worked as an author, among others, for the Asia-Europe Foundation. From 1999 to 2007, Saskia worked for a major NGO in Germany and the European Union on strategic management, poverty alleviation, and social policy. She holds a diploma from the University on Arts of Administration from the University of Constance, Germany. Our next panelist is Markus Strangmüller. Welcome, Markus.
Hello, everyone. Welcome and greetings from Munich.
Thank you. Markus is responsible for sustainability management at Siemens globally, including governance and operating model for sustainability practices, as well as human rights. He's also responsible for the company-wide business to society approach, showing the contribution and impact of Siemens to the sustainable development of society today and in the future. He also coordinates the Siemens Sustainability Board. Markus joined Siemens almost 30 years ago and has held many different functions in different industries over the years. He spent 2.5 years in Australia. He joined Corporate Sustainability Department in office in 2009. Markus holds a degree in electrical engineering of the University of Munich and a Master of Business Administration from the European University. He's also taught strategy at the European University and a Globe Business College at MBA programs. Last but not least, Anke Schrader, our own TCB researcher in Asia. Welcome, Anke.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah, it's worthwhile mentioning that Anke has joined us from China, so it's already quite late there. Thank you for making that possible, Anke. She has lived and worked in China for over 15 years and is the author of numerous publications on China's sustainable development agenda. Her work has been featured in a wide variety of media outlets, including Fortune China, CNN, China Daily. And Anke holds a master's degree in public policy and management from the University of Constance and was a scholarship student of UIBE, Beijing, and Shanghai Jiangtao University. I'm Uwe Schulte, the head of the Global Sustainability Center, and let me just briefly tell you what this is about. The Global Sustainability Center of the Conference Board combines all the activities of the Conference Board, be it research and member peer exchange, to create long-term value for our members and positive impact through sustainability integration. We define the scope of sustainability through the UN SDGs, as we are discussing today, and we try to provide timely, thought-provoking, and relevant research. If you would like to know more, please feel free to contact me at any point in time. It's uwe.schulte@conferenceboard.org. Okay, without furthermore ado, Saskia, I would like hand over to you. And I understand that at BASF you have been developing a product-based approach to create relevance for the UN SDGs within your business. Over to you.
Thank you, Uwe. Yes, indeed. Our focus on the SDGs is product-based. We have chosen that in a nutshell because our biggest leverage is indeed via our products and solutions. When we evaluated all of our contributions to the SDGs when they came into force 2015, we looked at our procurement, our responsible procurement. We looked at our operations, so we really screened the whole value chain. And via our products and solutions, this is where we have the biggest leverage, not neglecting the other aspects, of course, but today the focus is business opportunities through the SDGs. For our operations, obviously, water and climate, as we are in an energy-intensive industry, this is very important. For our procurement, the decent work, SDG 8, is crucial. We also have contributions, and I really want to stress the strategic dimension of SDGs, how they can help you build your corporate strategy or sustainability strategy. They play a role in setting, they played a role when we set ourselves new corporate targets end of last year. SDGs play a role when we think and we work on our disclosures. And last but not least, the partnerships that are needed to achieve the SDGs, they can really, it's very important to also focus on collaboration in reaching the SDGs. So products is our biggest impact, and we have chosen, after evaluation of all of this supply chain, we have chosen these 6 SDGs as our focus SDGs. This was done on the basis of looking at the whole value chain and screening through all the SDGs, which are important in our supply chain, in our own operations, and with regards to our customer relations. As in sustainability in general, the SDG contribution that a company makes is only honestly evaluated when you look at the positive and at the negative contributions. So for us, when we looked at the contributions, we asked ourselves, what is the material contribution? What is important? Where do we really have a big leverage? And we prioritized the Sustainable Development Goals with regards to how can we reduce our negative impact and how can we increase our positive impact. I want to start with the focus on reducing our negative impacts on Sustainable Development Goals. And one way we are minimizing environmental impacts from our operations is through our Verbund system and Verbund principle. The Verbund, the connection of the logistics, of infrastructure, of the flows, the material flows in our sites, in our big sites. These save a lot of CO2 emissions. They save energy. They reduce waste and minimize waste. Since our focus today is on China, I want to highlight the Verbund site we have been running for quite a long time in Nanjing, but also that we have started the preparation for a new Verbund site in Zhanjiang last year. Minimizing the negative impacts, but maximizing the positive. We have screened, so as I said earlier, the positive contributions we have on reaching the Sustainable Development Goals is mainly through our products. And this is a bit of a busy and a technical slide, but just to give you a sense what we do when we look at our products, we screen with a method that we call Sustainable Solution Steering all of our 60,000 products and screen them for their contribution to sustainability. We do that on a regular basis, so this is an ongoing process, and we put them, or we classify these products. Do they have a big contribution to sustainability? Do they really have a big impact and provide a solution that is very positive? Then we call them the accelerator products. The performer products are called those who are who have a basic sustainability contributions. And we are honest to say there are products that are so-called transitionals or even need to be challenged because their contribution is negative. This is an overview about the impact of our accelerator products, the positive, highly contributing products. What do they do? So their highest impact is on resource efficiency, on saving resources. For example, when I look into coatings for vehicles, and we have found a solution, a monocoat solution that is replaces 3, even 4 layer on vehicles. Or when I look into mulch films for agriculture, bio-based and compostable mulch films that reduce pollution because there is no plastic residue in the field. We have screened all of these products, and we have set ourselves a goal to increase the positive impact of these products by increasing their sales to 22 billion euro by the year 2025. At the same time, reducing harm, as I said, is also part of the task. So we have promised to stop selling these products that we call challenge products, those who have could have a harmful effect on sustainability, or from a sustainability perspective. We have promised to phase them out maximum after 5 years after we have classified them. These are some examples of applications also in China of accelerator products. I have highlighted the Color Echo, the coating solutions, and the mulch films before. So in the sake of time, I would like to go on and say, and end with this on the notion of partnerships. To achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, nobody can act by himself. Our focus is on building partnerships, and this is an example how a project in China, in the Guangyao an autonomous county, we have developed a product together with the local company to save water, to also with regards to the low-income residents, so the social aspect in this county. it's a new cleaning solution that helps the hygiene in these in trash bins up to these facilities for waste management. And I really looking forward to discussing with you later how we can advance the SDGs together.
Thank you so much, Saskia. I think it's very impressive to see how you've really structured your approach, and you've identified priorities, because I think people have been struggling with 17 goals and which ones are relevant and which ones aren't so relevant for a specific industry. And I think you've shown us a very interesting process here. That leads us to the contribution from Markus and Siemens. And Markus, I understand you haven't gone primarily in your process starting from the product, but you started from a country perspective. Can you share a little bit more about this for us?
Okay, thank you very much, Uwe. So if we look at our approach, we have two aspects. We first looked into how do we contribute best to society and to sustainable development. And there we have identified several areas. And one area was clearly also the contribution we have with our portfolio, because in our portfolio we provide access to energy, we provide access to mobility, access to healthcare, but we also have industrial solutions, city solutions, and so on. So with all our portfolio, we contribute significantly to the sustainable development, but also with our own operations, with activities we have in the different countries. And then we said, okay, how do we best show the contribution, since the Sustainable Development Goals are made for nations, and in the combination of all the nations, it brings up the global sustainable development. So therefore we said, okay, let's have a look on a national basis and see how we can show our contribution in there. And we have developed this Siemens Business to Society methodology, where we first have a look from the outside in, looking into what matters to society, what are national development priorities. So looking at the SDGs, how they are then also mainstream within the different countries. What does it mean from a megatrends perspective? What does it mean in the development overall? We look at several studies from consultancies, from a Transparency International, and all of these areas to have a clear picture from an outside-in perspective. And here we have defined ourselves 6 main pillars, and you can see these ones on the right-hand side. And here we are driven more by the overall intent of the SDGs in sustainable development, and less than the detailed 169 targets or the 230 plus KPIs. So we really look at the overall intent. And if we look at sustainable development, it's mainly around improving the quality of life while sustaining the environment. So therefore you see the 2 pillars, 4 and 5, they exactly deal with that topic. And to achieve that, you need to have a strong economy, you need to have local jobs and skills, you need to provide innovation, otherwise you won't be able to improve quality of life while sustaining the environment. But also in the world today, you need to shape the societal transformation in many different areas. So these are the 6 main areas we look at, and then we look into the Siemens perspective to it. So what is our impact and what is the value we have in these areas already today? And we use that one for mainly positioning purposes within the different countries, but also looking into the opportunity development. So how can we support the country and support shaping the future of the country based on the areas where the country needs to improve. So, and this is where.
Markus, can I just briefly, can you just go back for a second? When you say societal transformation, the other points are very, very clear. Societal transformation for me is a bit, I'm not 100% certain how that relates to the others.
So I think if you look at the broader perspective, you need to also look at the development within the different countries and what kind of areas you need to address. That could include also topics like broader educational aspects, changes in the education system overall. It could also look into tax systems, how you need to change maybe tax system to reduce inequalities within the country. Also looking into more human rights related aspects, or looking into fighting corruption in countries. So how do you shape these kind of more societal transformations? So broader systems within the country. If you look at other systems transformation, like let's say the energy transition or a mobility transition or a healthcare transition, these would be areas they would fit into the other 5 categories where we would split in there.
I think
but
it's
at the end
clearer.
of the day, it's not 100% easy in all of these areas, so you could see the one or the other topic in one of the different fields. But I think that is not the most important structure. So at the end of the day, you need to really classify where you see your contribution within the sustainable development in the different countries.
Yeah.
So, and up to now, we have looked into 30 plus country studies where we did this evaluation to a large or a little bit less degree. We also look into certain projects and how we contribute to the sustainable development in some specific mobility or energy projects, or even we had one pilot done on the side. But overall, we are very much focusing on the country level with the SDGs. And here you can also see let's say the 5 high impact SDGs we are focusing on. And these are the SDGs 3, 7, 9, 11, and 13. These are the ones where we have the biggest contributions and the biggest impacts. Then here you can see some of the examples on providing clean and affordable energy. Here we have a major contribution where we increase the capacity of the Egypt energy network by more than 50%. Or if you look into the city areas, how we impact on the transportation side, 50 million people a day. Or if you look on the healthcare side, where we provide access to 1.3 billion patients for imaging systems, and so on. So these are all elements where we then show our impacts and also use that one then in the further development in how can we improve in there. And I've shown you before on the one side that we use that one for positioning. Here you can see one of the brochures being developed by our colleagues in the UAE, where it shows in the UAE for the UAE, and then looking into the different SDGs, the different areas, how we support the UAE in the sustainable development. But also looking forward, we look into also countrysides where we then develop the potentials for improvements and shaping the development in the future in the different areas, and see also what kind of potential is what potential is in different markets and different countries, and then using that approach also going forward. So if we then go into major projects in different countries, we normally have the focus on one specific area, and that's in many cases, and if you look at infrastructure in countries, one of the key infrastructure you have to have in a country is you need to have electricity. So if you have electricity being provided, with that you can then build on the next infrastructure levels. Then you can go into mobility, you can go into industrial development, or you can go also further into water areas or into communication in all of these areas. But first of all, you need to have the energy being provided. And that is what we often focus on, this sort of an electrification roadmap. But next to that, we also address clearly other SDGs by doing that. And it's a lot around the SDG 8 with economic growth. It's also a lot around the topic of education, and not just for ourselves, but also for the whole value chain within that electrification. It's clearly also always a contribution to the climate action approach. And we are doing that in most of the cases in bigger partnerships with governmental partners in Germany, but also governmental partners locally in the countries, and even industrial partners in Europe and in the different countries where we do these kind of projects. So here you can also see that this is a more broader aspect in really developing a country for the long run. And here you always have perspectives of 15, 20 years going into the future. And if we look at also now on China, which is one of the focus also today, so with the 13th five-year plan from China in looking into these 5 areas, where the one is the innovative development, then the next part, the coordinated development, the green development, open development, and shared development. Here you can see many of these aspects where China is focusing on and is also moving forward in the direction of sustainable development in a broader perspective.
Thank you very much, Markus. It is interesting to see that fundamentally the approach that BASF has taken by looking into products, and you are coming from the first focal point of the country, in the end, you both develop solutions to drive the sustainable development goals forward and at the same time develop business opportunities. So I would like to now invite Anke to talk to us about the study the conference board has done on what that means on a broader scale for China. And over to you, Anke.
Thank you very much, Uwe. So last year, we at the China Center, we did a broad-based study to look at how China is utilizing the SDGs in their broader development agenda and what that means for businesses in terms of alignment and commercial opportunities. And so this research really reflects a lot of what we've just heard from BASF and Siemens, if we look at it in a little bit more detail. So essentially what we started out with is with the broad premise that the UN SDGs, if you look at them very closely and you compare them with China's domestic policy priorities, is that you see that most of the most pressing issues that China is grappling with today and will be grappling with over the next decades are very, very closely aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals agenda. So I've given you here a couple of examples kind of falling into largely these 4 buckets. So for example, if we look at China's political agenda in terms of industrial development and upgrading the economy, there's a lot of alignment points in terms of slimming down heavy industries, modernizing the agricultural sector, which is a very important area. And then obviously, a lot of policy initiatives in China are geared towards shifting into the high end and into the cleaner segments of the manufacturing sector. So there's a lot of overlap here with the SDGs. Then China's broader energy strategy. We know energy consumption is still growing in China. There is, domestically speaking, a shortage of supply, and there's heavy reliance on oil imports. And so China has very ambitious strategic long-term goals in the renewables and alternative energy industries. This is really one of their national priorities to drive forward in that sector. Again, a lot of alignment with the SDGs. Then we have a very whole different set of priorities and challenges in China, which are centered around social stability and security. So here, a number of issues come into play, like creating a safe and clean living environment. So a lot of the pollution control measures that China has been implementing fall into that area. We have ensuring food safety, ensuring food security, and water supply. So these are more around really national security issues in terms of being able to feed its population, to provide clean water for its population, and then also improving social and financial equity, a big concern for the Chinese government. And then last but not least, there's a whole set of issues centered around China's regional interests and its growing geopolitical aspirations. So obviously the SDGs have a very strong focus on global partnerships to achieve the SDGs. And so for China, the potential soft power and diplomatic benefits that it can gain by linking its own international development initiatives with the SDG is really very significant. So as you can see, all of these areas really are centered around domestic policy priorities in first instance, but if you look more closely, you will see that they all in one way or another align very, very closely with the SDGs. And herein, from our perspective, really lies the opportunity for businesses. It's very, very important to understand, and I think we've heard about this already a little bit, is that you always have to look at the country context. So there is every country approaches the SDGs in a very, very different way. Every country tries to implement and focus and shape their agenda in a very different way. So for China, China has really taken its own key priorities, its own development agenda, and has then tried to align that with the goals and the targets that are falling underneath each of the goal. This also means that if you look at China's implementation plan, China published its implementation plan in 2016. It was actually one of the first countries that did so. And if you look at that implementation plan, you will see that there are dozens and dozens of reference points that point you towards other strategic planning documents. So for example, something like the 13th five-year plan that Marcus mentioned earlier, but many, many other strategic plans that focus on on specific topics like pollution or social equity, or on specific regions. And they all kind of make the effort to try align and shape the SDG agenda for China specifically. It also means that China heavily emphasizes certain areas, certain goals, or certain targets within certain goals, and de-emphasizes others. It also means that China is interpreting certain goals and targets in a very different way than they're originally laid out in the UN SDGs by the United Nations. So it means there's a careful study needed in terms of what the SDGs represent globally and how they're framed within the UN and how they're interpreted within any given country context, in this case China, and then how this country aims to apply them. So in terms of examples, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I will direct you to our research. It's available online. It's an online tool. You can dig into any of these goals. And what we've done is essentially we have we've gone through all of the government documentation, have tried to identify the focal areas, the Chinese domestic focal areas for each of the goals, and providing examples of where we see some commercial opportunities or business opportunities within these within each of these focal areas. So just to backstep a little bit, our research has really centered around trying to point out to companies that there is an overlap really between the SDGs, between policy priorities in China, and between commercial capabilities and opportunities of companies. And there's kind of a sweet spot where you can call it a nexus that kind of brings the sustainability policy and the commerce arena together, and where opportunities are very large for companies to engage on, and to engage on in a significantly more positive way than they would if you wouldn't go through this exercise of kind of narrowing down your options. We've already heard a couple of really great examples here from BASF and Siemens. I just wanted to highlight a few others that we've referenced in our work. For example, one of them is the Blockchain Food Safety Alliance that was created in late 2017. So that's a collaboration between Walmart, IBM, JD.com, one of the largest online sales platforms in China, and Tsinghua University. And it's all centered around bringing together blockchain technology platforms to increase food supply chain transparency and ultimately ensure food safety in China. So that's, for example, one example. We have another example by Novozymes. They have projects in China that focus on wastewater treatment solutions in a variety of different provinces. Again, making use of their own commercial capabilities, but also aligning themselves with one of the one of the key areas in terms of industrial pollution that the government itself focuses on and is increasingly starting to focus on. So water pollution is one of those areas that will get a lot more attention over the next couple of years in China. So, a very strategic focus area from a political point of view. No matter which example you look at, what they all have in common is really that they are usually highly visible, work well within the political agenda. They always play to the core strength and the interest of the individual companies. And, we've seen that already earlier with a couple of the BASF examples. And they all have in common that they try to address some of the key leadership challenges and priorities that we've seen in China in terms of China's economic development, as well as China's implementation plan for the SDGs.
Thank you so much, Anke. I must say that I had very positive feedback from a number of companies about your online tool. Can you just re-emphasize where we find that and how to use it?
Yes. So this is one of our few, pieces of research that we haven't produced as a PDF format. It's essentially an online tool. You can find it by going onto the main website of the conference board, and then under sustainability and research, you will find a link to it, and it provides you with a lot of the background knowledge that you kind of need to understand the context of the SDGs and sustainable development in a broader sense in China, and then really systematically goes into each of these goals, identifies the focal areas that are relevant to China, that might be very, very specific to China, and may even deviate a little bit from what we see within the UN framework of the SDGs. And then within these focal areas, provide specific examples of issues that China is trying to address. And so from a corporate point of view, when you start to do a materiality analysis, when you start to think about strategically where are your sweet spots, where your commercial opportunities also lie, and how you can align yourself, this is a great tool to kind of go and look at what areas make sense from a policy point of view, from a broader economic development point of view for China, so that you can strategically align.
Thank you, Anke, for highlighting that. And I must say, I'm very proud of our audience, because I'm conscious that Easter is knocking on the door, and you're still very keen and listen to all of this. But please make also use of the possibility in the bottom left-hand corner, where we've just posted the link to the tool to raise your questions. And I'm sure that there are quite a few questions that the wealth of material you've just listened to have triggered in your mind. So please feel free to ask them. We will try to answer them. Whilst you're considering that, I wanted to ask all of you, but let's start with you, Saskia. This is very impressive, what you've done in terms of integrating the SDGs, but I don't think it was a walk in the park. Can you share a little bit, sort of the difficulties, how you got to this priority setting, and how you got the rest of the organization on board?
Sure. Yes, indeed. A walk in the park is something different. I think the biggest challenge at the beginning was making people aware that this thing that is going on out there, that is made for governments, basically, the Sustainable Development Goals, that they are relevant for their work, for our work. When you work in big organizations, and I think we have a couple of MNEs in our audience, you tend to you need to stand up and make the employees aware, and translate sometimes language from the outside to terms and to principles, to issues that are relevant internally. So the first step, I think, was really translating the language of the SDGs. When I speak about life on land or life below water, to put that into something tangible that an engineer, a chemist, somebody who works in a plant can really relate to. Energy efficiency is something that is at the core of many of our processes, and has been dear to the hearts and minds of many of our employees. So when you connect to these issues, then you get a step further. Also, I think this translation work from SDGs, which had been built upon the Millennium Development Goals, so more focused on developing countries, now to put them on as relevant for all countries. This was also a challenge that needed some effort, and until everybody from in the hierarchy up to top management understood this is something really relevant globally. In the end, the translation is first a translation of terms and of languages, of concepts, but it comes to really translating it into internal processes. So when I'll tell you now in investment projects, in our value to society, which is an impact valuation tool that we use, in our mergers and acquisition projects, we consider aspects of the SDGs, how they contribute. Then you can imagine this has been a long process of making this translation work and using this framework really in internal processes.
Okay, thank you, Saskia. Markus, we just got a question which is very much related to what we're just talking about. And Anita Hoffmann is asking, does the boards of BASF and Siemens review the progress of the companies towards SDGs, or is it more an executive topic?
No, we have at Siemens a sustainability board, where 4 of our 8 managing board members are participating. And in there, we have a regular review on several topics in there. Also, if we look at our business to society approach, that is also from time to time on the agenda there. Is there a very much detailed process in place to look at all the SDGs and the contribution to it? We don't do that so much on a global basis because we are thinking of this is very much a local topic, and you need to look at this from a country perspective. I think that is something which is, I think, very important. So if we look at let's say the US, or if you look at UAE, or if you look at Germany, so the management in these countries, they would have a look into the sustainable development, on the contribution in their areas. They also look at the reports being developed with the contributions, and they also update these contributions on a regular basis. So we started with the approach in 2013, 2014, even before the SDGs were published, although we knew about the SDGs because we were contributing to the development of them. So therefore, we had already a relation to these areas in where it will be going. And I think that is something we would leave more on the countryside. What has changed now over the past year, I would say, that is the business to society came up to the top of the purpose discussion within the country, within the company overall. So this is where it is now part of our purpose within the company, and that we are a business to society and we make real what matters in the different areas.
Yeah, thank you. Saskia, how is the review done in BASF? Is the board involved?
Yes, indeed. On a yearly basis, we look into our impact on society, and the board looks at it, environmental and societal impacts, what we call our value to society approach. We link this to the SDGs, but a bit similar to Siemens, this approach was developed in 2013, and so before the SDGs were finally settled, although we were involved and the categories are similar. This is part of this translation process I've addressed earlier. But it is the spirit of the SDGs. What is our impact on society and on the environment? This is on the board level, but since we are in the implementation phase of the SDGs, I think it's much more important to evaluate together with our researchers and R&D, what does the new products that we are developing, how do they contribute to the SDGs? So the more granular approach at this phase is, and as how does this product, where are the challenges? Do we need to phase that out? Do we have a replacement? Do we need to develop something to solve the big challenges? This is really very much the focus of today. Indeed, the board is involved, but they are involved on this bigger lines, as is their role, together with all the reporting of all the indicators we do, and connected with that, not isolated on the SDGs alone.
Thank you. We have 2 questions from Bindu Kola. He says, really interesting approaches were presented, but what about target setting? Let's start with that. He's then also talking about how to get the other strategic functions involved. But let's first say, we heard about the principal approach. How about the targets?
I'm happy to.
Yeah, please.
Talk about that. Since we evaluated that our major impact is on climate and climate change, we have set, so this was really after the evaluation, where are our biggest impacts. We have set ourselves a corporate goal to grow carbon neutrally until the year 2030. So this was really in connection with the Sustainable Development Goals, and also to focus on our sales of products that have a sustainable positive impact and increase their sales. So to really use this in our strategies. The biggest impact I think we had with target setting is that we have put these non-financial goals, non-financial targets at the same high as our financial targets. And I want to add a third target, and that is responsible procurement. So we have really looked into making societal and environmental targets at the same level as non-financial targets. And that was a big step forward for ourselves. Walk in the park, you have asked me earlier, we were definitely not a walk in the park, all these discussions we have had internally. But I think for the company as a whole, it's a big step forward.
Thank you. Markus, target setting for Siemens?
Yeah, if you look at target setting, I think you need to distinguish the two issues. The one is, what do you contribute to the sustainable development outside of the company, and what do you do internally to be credible in that side? I think on the credibility side internally, we have in some areas, we have targets set. So for example, if we want to become carbon neutral by 2030 and halve our carbon footprint by 2020, so that is part of our overall climate strategy. There we also have, let's say, the topic of CO2 abatement in our environmental portfolio. So here we have certain targets being set. But if you look at the outside and you see the contribution to the different sustainable development goals on a national or on a global level, I think it's very difficult to set targets, and I don't think that it is a useful approach in setting targets, even linked to the 169 targets within the SDGs, or even on the KPI level. I think there you need to look at least what we do is looking at the overall intent of the SDGs and see, okay, what is the direction you want to go? And are you supporting that direction in going forward? And then you can say, okay, we want to be more in the area of mobility and providing access to people. And would you then set yourself targets with for how many people you want to provide access or something like that? That's quite difficult, because we are not the one as a B2B company being the provisioner to the end user, but providing the infrastructure and supporting in that one. So therefore, a clear target setting in these areas, I wouldn't see, but having the overall intent and striving for a more inclusive and sustainable development in the countries, I think that is something we can clearly support in there.
Thank you. I think this in itself merits a longer discussion, but I'm conscious of time, and I want to address the other question from Bindu, and he's talking about the ownership of the program. Who is driving the contributions towards the SDGs? Is that with the sustainability function, and how do you get the other strategic functions involved in this? Saskia, sorry, Markus, please. Markus, please go ahead. Sorry.
If you look on our side, though, the overall responsibility for our business to society approach and all the other topics around the non-financials lays within the Sustainability Office, which is part of the overall governance structure on sustainability within the company. And we have an introduction to the whole thing is done via our governance structures in the organization. If we look at the business to society approach in the countries, though clearly the responsibility lies within with the CEO in the country or in the businesses. So clearly they are responsible for the approach. We are supporting in these areas from a corporate perspective, but the responsibility lies within the CEOs.
Thank you, Markus. And Saskia, in BASF, how are you?
It's a very simple answer. I'm part of corporate development. I'm part of strategic planning. So we drive the SDGs from corporate development and strategic unit. And this is, I think, a good development. I've seen that when I joined the company 12 years ago, sustainability was part of communication and government relations. It then moved to EHS department, so more focusing internally on the operations, environment, health, safety issues, and then I think that was 7 years ago being shifted to the corporate development function, and this is how we have biggest leverage.
Thank you so much, and I would like to thank all three of you, Markus and Saskia, for giving us a perspective on businesses can really engage with the Sustainable Development Goals, even so they are fundamentally something governments have committed to, and we see that this is something where large corporations will have a major role to play. And I would like to thank Anke for helping us to see that by analyzing what is happening in a large region like China, how business opportunities arrive there. And I think this is a very valuable tool for businesses that are already engaged in China, but also for those who consider a bigger opportunity there. So thank you all three for your contributions. I would like to mention before we finish the conversation today that the next webcast in our series Sustainability Watch will be about responsible tax, a very highly disputed subject, and we hope to have one tax manager from a major corporation to discuss these issues. And then that's on the 16th of May, and on the 20th of June, we will talk about responsible digital, an emerging field that I think everybody should be increasingly aware of. All of these were always, as usual, on 3 p.m. CET and 9 a.m. ET, New York time. So thank you very much. Let me remind you that we would really appreciate your evaluation of this webcast. That helps us improve our service to you. And with that, thank you for listening to us, and I wish everybody a relaxing break over the next few days. Thank you so much.